Good evening, everyone. It is 11:05 p.m. here on the East Coast, and it is 8:05 p.m. Pacific time on the West Coast, and it is February 4th if you are in Central European time or you happen to be over in Asia. Welcome to another episode of Poker Uncensored. This is our 9th episode, subtitled Keep Poker Great. We've got a lot of great topics to talk about tonight, but first, about your host, Matt Solon. He is nicknamed His Highness of Hold'em. He's played poker tournaments and cash games in multiple states and even internationally. He's based out of the greater Boston area, and he's not afraid of the truth. And the truth is why we do this podcast, right? So I'm giving people the chance to talk about poker with freedom. Freedom to speak their opinions without any fear of persecution, without any worries about censorship. Because censorship is bad, right? We don't want to censor people. We want to let them have the freedom. And his background is expertise in finance and technology. His work has made companies and institutions millions of dollars by building efficiency and improving customer satisfaction. And you can be a part of the show tonight, so post your comments directly on YouTube. Tweet using hashtag Poker Uncensored. Again, that's hashtag Poker Uncensored, one word. And again, you can post directly on YouTube. That's the preferred way to comment. But some people don't like YouTube. They don't like Google, so they use Twitter, and they can tweet and get their comments in there. Tonight, we're going to start out with an update on Raymond T. Davis. And Raymond T. Davis, to recap, is a 52-year-old poker player who has over $1.6 million in winnings and runs the Real Grinders poker community. And he's accused of some bad stuff. He's accused of some heinous sexually based offenses against children. It's not good. Not good at all. And some of the Real Grinders people have been complicit in covering up his actions. Once again, not good. People are entitled to information. They should be able to know about what this guy has done. Because imagine you have a 9-year-old kid, a 12-year-old kid, and you're living in Nevada. You want to make sure that you keep them away from this guy. In mid-January of 2020, so about 2 weeks ago, the court denied motions by the defendant to dismiss his counsel. Basically, he wanted to get rid of his attorney. He's tried to represent himself in court. The judge wasn't allowing that. The judge is essentially forcing him to keep his counsel. It's unclear why he wanted to get rid of his counsel. It may have been some sort of ploy to be able to later on appeal. I don't know. But the defendant has an upcoming hearing on the 19th of February, and apparently this is on a motion to actually try to dismiss the entire case against him. Now, that's unlikely to happen because I think this is going to go to trial. The evidence is going to be presented, and a jury is going to make a decision, and a grand jury indicted him before. So where is Mr. Davis now? Well, Mr. Davis is in custody of the Clark County, Nevada Detention Center. Mr. Davis is being held on $500,000 bail. Now, there was a motion to try to reduce his bail down to down to $25,000. Right? They tried to reduce his bail. That was denied. Now, if he is bailed, he'll be subject to GPS monitoring and house arrest. But here's a good question. If Mr. Davis has all these wealthy buddies from Real Grinders who have played huge poker tournaments, who have cashed for 6 figures, 7 figures, why aren't they stepping up to bail him out? Why is this guy still behind bars? And he himself made $1.6 million at poker, but he can't post bail? What happened there? I mean, you'd think these guys in Real Grinders, they love him. They look up to him. They see him as their idol, that they would help him get out of jail. But at least while he's in jail, hey, he can't hurt any more children. So that's probably potentially a positive thing. Of course, he's innocent until proven guilty, but it's not looking good for him. It is not looking good. Coming up onto some news tonight. So the poker room at One Lafayette in Hampton Falls, New Hampshire, will be closing come spring of 2020. Now, the business was acquired by Eureka Casinos. They also own the Brook in Seabrook, New Hampshire, which is only about 2 or 3 miles away. The good news, Eureka is going to offer jobs to all the staff there. So we're not going to see everybody get laid off. We're not going to see everybody lose their job. That's definitely a positive. And in addition to that, I think that for people who are playing poker, this is a positive, right? Normally you would say, hey, room closing is bad, but I think consolidation of the player base will lead to improved action and greater tournament turnout. The Brook, or in its old kind of iteration, they were having trouble actually keeping, say, a 2-5 game running. They sometimes wouldn't even have 1-3 games running or 1-2 games. So consolidating the player base from Hampton Falls together with what's in Seabrook should help for better action, right? Instead of having like 3 tables going in Hampton and 1 at Seabrook, you'd theoretically have 4 in the same place. Also, the tournament turnout will be greater, and they're not going to be able to abuse this position of essentially having the only room on the seacoast because they've still got competition. You have Encore Boston Harbor to the south, and then Chasers, Manchester Poker, and Boston Billiards to the west, and Salem, Manchester, and Nashua, respectively. So, the poker room, they did a good job running tournaments and drawing people in, but they just weren't able to keep that room up to par, and I think the acquisition by Eureka is going to be a positive in the long run. Next up, we're going to talk about the Scott Gilman Bounty Tournament. Now, this is a tournament taking place at the poker room, and that's going to happen prior to them closing. It's coming up on Wednesday, February 19th. 5:30 p.m. is the starting time. And basically, it's the usual 50-50-50 event that they have, right? You buy in for $50, you get 15,000 in chips. If you get knocked out, you can rebuy. You can also add on. That event is basically taking place as it usually does, but there is going to be a $250 bounty on Scott Gilman, a $250 high hand before the first break, which I believe is at about 7. I want to say 7:10 or 7:15 p.m. Not 100% sure. I'm sure somebody's going to fact check me on that. And it's usually, a fun tournament, right? It's a good chance to make a final visit to the room before they close. But who is this Scott Gilman guy that's in the picture here, right? Who is he? Some of you probably have never heard of him. Well, he is one of the top 700 best players in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. He final tabled the Encore Boston Harbor 60,000 guaranteed tournament last year, but he likes to call light sometimes, and he's been known to try to bluff. So if you can exploit that, you can have the opportunity to take Mr. Gilman's chips, and you take his chips, all of them, you get $250, and that's good, right? $250. That's going to buy, I don't know, it buys what, 4 Xbox games, probably. But in any case, it should be a fun event. I think people are going to enjoy it, and there's extra money in the to be made. There's extra money to be made. So continuing on to our next topic tonight, we're going to talk about the Brook in Seabrook, New Hampshire, USA. And the Brook is essentially the old Seabrook Greyhound Park, but it is completely renovated and revamped. So it's no longer a dump. It's no longer a place where your shoes might stick to the ground when you walk in. In fact, if you look at that lighting, right, that is brand new lighting that's been installed. Those are brand new high definition televisions that replace the things that looked like they were from the 1980s. The old tables and felts, which were just awful and abysmal, just terrible, just so out of date. Those are gone. And you've actually got a decent looking poker room and gaming facility now, right? They have parking that's plentiful and free. And it's really set a new standard for poker and for casino gaming in New Hampshire. It's definitely worth checking out and playing in. So they have the typical like pit games that people would think like roulette, blackjack, and then of course they've got the poker action going. By the way, the new race book that they've set up, which in the future could be a sports book if they ever get retail sports betting going in certain areas of the state, has a nice stadium design, comfortable seating, plenty of televisions. I mean, you look at that photo, count up the TVs that are in that space, you're going to come to double-digit numbers, if not over 100, right? So you got plenty of televisions. It's a great space. And the tables are actually really good. These are best of breed tables, right? Gorilla Gaming is the company that made these tables. They have integrated cup holders, integrated USB charging ports. Poker tournaments actually have their own room night now. Now they're using some of the old, they're the old seats on essentially the old tables have replaced felts. I think those are temporary. They are apparently eventually moving these cash poker game tables off of the main gaming floor and into that room. The old space that they used to have is being, I guess, finished out as something else. But it's looking really good, right? The seating there is excellent. Those may be the best seats in any poker room in the state of New Hampshire, and one of the top 3 in New England. The only 2 that really could compete with it being Encore Boston Harbor and MGM Springfield. And also some of these tables and seats, they are not powered up because they're basically only temporary in temporary place. So let's see here. Oh, we have a first question that came in. This is about the item from related to the Scott Gilman bounty tournament that we were just talking about. So the question here, and it comes from Brett here, is if Mr. Gilman is in the top 700, where would you rank? So I guess that's an interesting question. So, if Scott's in the top 700, where would I rank? So Scott actually is top 700 in Massachusetts. Because I live in New Hampshire, I'm ranked differently. So I am one of the top 175 in New Hampshire, but we have less population. So I would think if Gilman's in the top 700 in Massachusetts, I'm probably below him, based on the revenues. But there'd be more analysis that would have to be done. But the way the rankings are done, it's basically by state or by country. So when we could actually look at the national to get a comparison of where Mr. Gilman and I rank nationally. That's probably the way to look at it. So anyway, back to our talk on the Brook, right? So with regards to the Brook, very great investment into that facility that was made. And I think Eureka spent millions of dollars to do it. They've basically got one of the top places in New Hampshire, right? The table games, they've got refreshed felts, great seating. If you look at this table, this is a blackjack table, right? It's got new betting options, right? The Lucky Ladies side bet, for example, if you or actually no, it's the suited. Yeah, no, it is. It's the Lucky Ladies and the suited Royal side bets, right? So you bet on the Lucky Ladies, and if your first two cards equal 20, like you get Ace 9 or you get King Queen or something like that, you're gonna win some extra money. And then there's another one where like if you bet, you get the, let's say, a Queen of Hearts or whatever, Queen of Hearts or something like that. Or no, sorry, it's King Queen suited. If you get like King Queen suited and it's in a certain suit, you get paid like 100 to 1. So you put like $5 there and you might get 500. So that adds some fun for people who love blackjack. Also, with the race book aspect, right? They've got plenty of positions for bets to be placed. They have these automatic machines that people can go to and do it. There's also mobile app race betting available. I don't actually do any betting on dogs and horses myself. I haven't learned how to profit on that like I can profit at poker. So I don't exactly know how that works, but for those who enjoy betting on the horses, the ponies, the dogs, the I don't know, whatever animals race, but you got all that going. So the other thing, they've got brand new bar with a respectable selection of drafts, right? Of course, they've got Bud Light, Bud Select. They've also got some IPAs, some Blue Moon, a couple of Sam Adams, etc. There's plenty of bottles, other things available. Servers are quick with drink orders. One thing they could improve on, though, the food service, right? So they've got a limited menu right now. They got rid of pizza. People loved the pizza. Somehow they loved the pizza before they got rid of that. There's no burgers. There's no grilled chicken. So that's a shame. Also, there's plenty of tables and seating. As you can see, they have an arcade there. If you want to go play some pinball, you can play pinball. It's actually a way to let's say you're playing poker, you get the chips in good with aces, some idiot sucks out and you call him off with 4-7 off. Instead of going on tilt and punting off your money, go play a little pinball and then come back once you're off tilt. The other thing, they have free Wi-Fi. Now, the speed was really slow on the free Wi-Fi, so it was so slow that I was like, all right, I got to try running this at a different location in the place to see if like maybe I was just in a bad spot. So I ran speed tests in like 6 different spots in there. I literally stood underneath the access point. It was still slow, so they need to work on that. But overall, the Brook is a significant improvement from the old Seabrook Greyhook Park. It's probably the best place for poker or casino gaming in the entire state of New Hampshire, actually. And there are some tweaks they need to make to enhance the customer experience. And I think that with the closure of the poker room in Hampton Falls, they have some opportunity to grow tournaments. But at the same time, there's a balance that has to be struck there. Because if you look at how the tournaments tend to run at Seabrook, they would have a lot of stuff like, say, a $40 tournament that's only going to take like 4 hours to end, right? Or a $75 event that starts at 6 and it's done by 11. Um, there's a population of player that actually likes that sort of event. They like low stakes. They like things that are only going to take a third or half the day. Not everyone's bankrolled to play $250 events that start at noon and don't finish until 1 a.m. And not everybody has the entire day available to play poker. You got people who have children, they got jobs, etc. They can't do that. So I think that there's a way to set up the tournament so that you've got a mix of, the stuff that the serious players want, those long day, full, 10-hour, 12-hour tournaments, at the maximum amount you could buy in for. And then you've got the people who want to just play, a $40 event and, they just want to go out, have a couple of beers and play some poker. So we're going to continue on here, though, to talk about another big event that's coming up here on the East Coast of the United States. And that is the February Almighty Stack, 250,000 guaranteed. And it's taking place at the Borgata in Atlantic City, New Jersey, February 15th to 18th. It's a 2-day event, and it's probably one of the best tournaments that's held in the country. This is an event where you're looking at having a deep stack structure, right? You come in with 100,000 chips. It's 1,000 big blinds. So it's deep stack poker. It's not the type of tournament where, level 4 hits, everybody's down to 20 big blinds, and people are shipping it with ace jack offsuit. This is the kind of event where you can actually play a skilled game. You can play a strategic game. You can think about the long run. And the Borgata is a great place to play poker because they have a history of exceeding their guarantees. They said there was a $1 million guarantee on this event back in January. The prize pool had hundreds of thousands of dollars above that. There are 4 options to play this thing. If you got a Saturday option, a Sunday option, and 2 Monday options. Now, Monday is a federal holiday. It's Washington's birthday. So that's why they're running, I think, 2 then. And then day 2 is on Tuesday the 18th at noon. Also, the Borgata has a great level of service at their entire resort. It's an excellent hotel property, and it's got solid dining options. In fact, it's probably got, I think it's, not only does it have a celebrity chef restaurant, it's got 2 celebrity chef restaurants. It's got both Wolfgang Puck and it's got Bobby Flay. So you can't go wrong with having multiple celebrity chef restaurant options, plus some casual options. Plus, they actually have a decent buffet. So if you're really hungry, you can go for the all-you-can-eat down there. Moving on to our next topic. So we're actually going to take some questions from viewers. So we're going to check, see if anything's come in through Twitter or if anything's come in through Facebook. We also got a couple of questions ahead of the show that we may have to get into here. Actually, yeah, here's one. So Rob has a question. Rob wants to know basically about what is it? Rob wants to know about the Aussie Millions. So Rob's question is, why didn't you go to Australia and play in the Aussie Millions? I just couldn't make it happen. So to go to Australia, it's a long flight, right? It's not a cheap flight. It's also, so it's not the kind of flight you want to do in economy class, right? You're spending like 15 hours on a plane from the West Coast to get there. You really don't want to do it in economy. And you look at business class, the price goes up a lot. It is the middle of summer there, though, right now. So, it's great weather in Australia to play. And, it is an amazing tournament. I've heard the casino they do it at is very nice. It's in Melbourne, which is a city that I haven't been to in Australia. I've only been to Brisbane and Sydney. And it might be something that I end up going to play in the future, but it just couldn't work out this year. There's too much business to conduct back home. So another question that we have here, this came in from Jackie, and Jackie is asking a poker-related question about, it's kind of an interesting one, actually. So Jackie's question is, I am a woman and play mostly against men, or play against mostly men. They seem to call against me when the other guys, they would fold. Why is this? Well, Jackie, it's because they're idiots, right? So they're basically looking at you and saying, oh, this is a woman, we're going to treat her differently, and we're going to play different against her than we would play against the men. And the key is to exploit these people, right? So if they're going to call against you when with the other guys they would fold, what you should be looking to do is get more value out of them, right? So if you have a hand that can't be beat, let's say there's no paired board, you have the ace high flush, you're obviously not losing there. And nobody could have a straight flush. Like, let's say you're in that scenario. So if normally they're going to fold to a bet of like 100, you bet 100 and they're calling. Well, try bumping it up. Try betting 125. Try betting 130. See if you can get more value out of these people calling off light, calling loose, and use that to your advantage. Now, eventually they might realize, okay, this is a woman who's actually skilled at poker, and maybe stop. But until they do, exploit them, make some money off these guys. If they're going to be a bunch of sexists, profit. And we don't have any additional questions right now, so we're going to continue on to our next topic, and we're going to talk about another poker tournament running in New England. That is the Valentine's Massacre. And that's running at the Manchester Poker Room in Manchester, New Hampshire, February 23rd and 24th. It starts Saturday at 12:30, and you want to be there on time, and here's why. If you get there on time, there's a 10,000 chip bonus. So if you register by the end of the first level, which I think with 40-minute levels, it's going to put us at 1:10 p.m., you get 10,000 chips more. Now, that 10,000 chips, that's 100 big blinds, because this is a super deep stack tournament. You're going to be looking at 100K starting stack. It's 100,000 chips, blinds 100, 100. It's pretty deep. In addition, registration can go all the way till 6:10. So, like, let's say you absolutely can't make it until 3 o'clock because you got to work or something. Fine, show up at 3 o'clock. You won't get the extra chips, but you still have a good shot. You're only down by 10%. So this is running in Manchester. The other cool thing about it, they have $1,750 going out in win, play, show, high hands before the first break. So if you get the best hand of I think it's the first 4 or 5 levels or whatever the case might be, you get that. You're going to make some extra money. You could actually buy into this thing, win the high hand, and proceed to punt the tournament and make like a 300% profit. That's theoretically possible. The other thing that's great, right? They have a complimentary dinner buffet and a full liquor bar. Now, people might think, oh, a free buffet, food's probably not that great. It actually is pretty solid. They have stuff like steak tips there. Usually there's free parking. And this is really the best tournament structure all month in New England. Again, 1,000 big blinds to start. You do the dealer add-on and get that early bird bonus. You're starting with 120,000 chips. That's 1,200 big blinds. That's deeper than the almighty stack down at the Borgata. Now, the prize pool won't be as big as the Borgata, but if you're in New England, it also isn't like 300 miles away. So, that's the advantage of having that tournament in Manchester. So, should be a fun time. We'll probably get a strong turnout. And, if you're in the area, it's worth playing. It's the best thing they've got in the region. So, again, remember, this is a show that you can be a part of. If you just post your questions on YouTube or tweet them on Twitter, use hashtag Poker Uncensored, we'll get to them during the show. There is no question we're afraid to get to. The next topic we're going to talk about is rat holing. And is it good for poker? So rat holing is the practice of a person taking chips off the table / out of play after they win a hand. And it's banned in most casinos. It's not allowed. But I'm going to make the argument that rat holing is actually good for poker. And here's why. Some players just don't feel comfortable playing deep stacked. So what's going to happen, they start out with $100, they're up to 500. They're just going to get up and go home. So wouldn't it be better to keep them there? They're going to be playing, they're going to be paying rake to the house. Let them take $200 off the table or whatever. Let them do that. A lot of casinos also say they want responsible gaming. So why would you force people to keep more than the table minimum there? That sounds kind of like hypocrisy, right? If somebody only wants to risk $100, why should they have to keep 500 or 600 on the table? And my last point here, maybe players should be able to rat hole as long as their stack stays at the table minimum. So if you're at, say, a 5-10 game, and the minimum on the table is 500, as long as you get 500 on the table, that should be allowed. Why should somebody who's been playing for an hour have to keep more on the table than somebody who's buying in new? It doesn't. I think that we ought to look at rat holing differently. I think that one of the reasons people don't like it, they feel like it denies them an opportunity to win back the money that they lost in a prior hand. Well, if the person gets up and goes home, you're not going to have the chance to win that money back either, right? So you can at least win some of it back if they stick around. Now, some people are going to say, oh, Matt, you're a moron. Rat holing's terrible. It should be banned. Rat holers suck. Like, whatever. And if people want to say that, they can. but I've got a great argument here for allowing it. So continuing on here, the next topic we're going to talk about the coronavirus, which is obviously bad for poker. Now, the Wuhan coronavirus, largely due to media hype, has caused people to be afraid to go out. That's bad for casinos, right? Less people going out means you got less action, smaller tournament prize pools. It's just not good. Now, I like how, by the way, I am being impersonated by some sort of clown um, who is shortly going to be prevented from impersonating me. So if you are following us on the YouTube channel, right, the guy who's coming in and he's basically claiming to be me. It's not me. So he's basically a phony, a loser, a troll who's trying to pretend to be me. That said, outside of Greater China, people don't need to worry too much about the coronavirus. In China, Macau, they were down 90% in volume of people. Yeah, that's bad for them. But the coronavirus is not killing huge numbers of people outside of the United States, or outside of Greater China. In the United States, you're more likely to die from influenza. So simple steps, right? Proper hand washing, for example, greatly reduces the risk of contracting the coronavirus. And if you live in the West, if you live in the EU, if you live in the United Kingdom, which recently exited the EU back on Friday, you're actually more likely to die of influenza than the coronavirus. So I'm not going to stop going out and having fun. I'm not going to quit poker because people are afraid of the coronavirus. And I would encourage others to, go play, go have a fun time. Just, wash your hands before you go eat stuff. Um, you know, that's why I think people got to do that. And yeah, one person just brought up a point. The coronavirus actually forced postponing the Trident Super High Roller event in the Republic of Korea. And that was postponed because a lot of the players were going to be coming from Greater China. Also, a lot of the flights to get to Korea are going to route through cities like Shanghai, Beijing, Hong Kong, and there was one other Chinese hub. Chengdao possibly is the name. But basically, a lot of the flights into transit China, and there were a lot of cancellations on flights. American Airlines has suspended all their flights, United as well, to mainland China. Some of the flights from Hong Kong are even being affected now in Hong Kong. Obviously wasn't as badly impacted as the Wuhan area. So the other thing that's bad for poker, right? Poker trolls. They contribute very little to poker. They drive people away and they reduce the fun factor of the game. And their continual berating of players that they think are less skilled by telling them they're bad, they're going to go broke, etc., just discourages them. Hey, if somebody's bad at poker and they're going to punt off money, let them keep playing and go broke. In fact, you should encourage them to keep playing, right? Because they're going to basically punt off money to the people who are skilled. The winning players are going to benefit. It's so stupid. The trolls keep going around. They tell people, oh, you're not going to win. You're never going to win. Can't win. Well, guess what? They spent like the entire year going around telling President Trump that he couldn't win. And guess what? He's the president now. So, people can be wrong. The trolls are usually wrong. And that's the thing. So, our next topic that we're going to talk about how do we grow the player base in poker. And we're going to be joined by basically a novice to poker. His name's Andy. Let's see if we can get him to be added into the discussion here. Andy, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, Andy, welcome to Poker Uncensored. So, one of the things with poker, you have a lot of old people playing. Eventually, those guys are going to die, right? So, how do we bring in new, younger people to poker, and how do we encourage people who might not actually be able to profit to play?
Well, as someone who is not as skilled, hasn't played, doesn't really go out to these things, what's my incentive to really go and try my hand at something I've never really looked into before?
No, that's a good question. So essentially, there needs to be something that makes poker fun for you, and that's what would draw you. There has to be something that is going to say, "Hey, I'm going to have fun, even if I lose all my money tonight. I'm still going to have a fun time." That's kind of what you would need.
Right, like you enjoy playing cards. It's not just the money for you, right?
Yeah, so I usually enjoy it. Now it does get tilting when for example, I played the epic stack at the Venetian. I got it all in with pocket aces, best hand you could start out in No Limit Texas Hold'em, and I got sucked out on by a guy who called off with a worse hand and got lucky. He got four of a kind on me, runner queens. So that wasn't exactly fun, but it was still an overall good experience. And the Venetian, treats their players pretty well, actually. So, what would cause you to go out and decide to play a live poker tournament, not having a high level of skill?
My incentive to go out and check something like that out would have to be if the pressure wasn't on as much to be able to understand what the how everything would flow so well. So I don't want to slow anyone down. I don't want to be able to, be looked at as someone who's taking their time, doesn't know what they're doing, and interrupt the vibe like such.
So, do you think that running something, for example, like a beginners tournament where it's like a low buy-in and it's targeted specifically to beginners, would be useful because then it's all
Oh,
people who.
absolutely, absolutely. Because I think people, those kinds of people would be able to ask questions. They would be able to take their time. The pressure's not on as much. They're learning, right? So in a learning environment, you want to be able to absorb as much knowledge as possible, take that with you, and then study it, refine it, and bring it next time, and hopefully you advance as a player.
No, that's a good point. So essentially, people would start out as beginners. They'd play these beginner tournaments, and then as they become more skilled, then they would jump in and they understand the rules. For example, they would jump into the regular tournaments, and since they now know the rules, they would be able to play without, say, slowing down the game or making mistakes that make other people upset. Well,
Right.
that's a good point. Now, how do we get younger people in? Because if you look at you'll see in poker tournaments everything from a 19-year-old guy uh, all the way up to like the 85-year-old guy who has a cane and has to walk around. But there's a lot of people in the older crowd, especially in New England. You get a lot of people that seem to be 55 plus. Um, sometimes the tournament field, more than half these people would qualify to play the senior citizens events. How do we get younger people? How do you get people in that age range, of say 18 to 35, to come into a poker room and play live poker?
I think you need to kind of uh, see what their interest would be. Everyone's different. Everyone goes for something different. So what does it have to offer them? Like some have buffets, some are, you know, they've got television, you can watch TV. It's not like a place where you can kind of hang out. Like if you're just going there to play cards, you're going to play cards, but maybe you want to bring some friends and they don't really care to watch. So they need something to do. And so you have like arcade games or something, or you put in, I don't know, you put in a good menu for food and drinks, stuff like that.
Yeah, a lot of people said that food and drink service isn't important, and I actually think otherwise. I think that food and beverage service is huge in poker, especially when you're playing a tournament that lasts all day. So, for example, again, I spent time at um, the Borgata, and you started playing at I think when you start playing at something like 5 p.m. and you don't finish that event and bag chips until about 2:30 in the morning, and so you're there for a solid 9 hours. You're going to want to have something to drink and something to eat. And if they don't have decent options, it's no good. I would say the Venetian actually was one of the best places for food at the poker table because they would bring you restaurant quality food from the Grand Lux Cafe, which is really good. And you also got $10 off if you were in the tournament. So they incentivized, tournament players to say, "Hey, I'm going to get a decent meal because we're going to give you a coupon for $10 off of it," which is cool. So you watched the show when we talked about the Brook, right?
Yes.
Would you see yourself considering going to a place like the Brook where it's got, huge TVs for sports and it's got a full bar or yeah, it's a full bar and it's got pinball
So
machines and stuff.
I don't know if you know this about the Brook, but they actually cater to a very non-poker or card playing audience, as they have live music that'll be coming on the 8th with an actual band. I know that this weekend or maybe on Sunday they aired the Super Bowl and people went there just to get together and watch the game and have food. So they're a very welcoming place for anybody who just wants to go and hang out and maybe is not into cards. But yeah, I would say that would be a good start over there when it's newly renovated and they seem to be in the 21st century with like your phone chargers and they're up to date on everything. So yeah, that would be a good start for a location in New
Yeah, and
Hampshire.
I think also Boston Billiards in Nashua has a similar setup because they've got a full billiards hall with shuffleboard and like a dozen plus pool tables, and then they've got a full bar as well. And obviously they have all of the big sports games on. Now, what I think is lacking is that for stuff like Ultimate Fighting and wrestling, a lot of places don't show those, right? So Buffalo Wild Wings used to be really good. They had all the UFC matches, and now they're kind of inconsistent. And then wrestling pay per views lately, I haven't seen those getting much places where people can actually go watch them. So, do you
Well,
think that
so
those would draw people in?
I do believe with as far as WWE goes, there's the WWE Network, which I don't know if restaurants have any deals with subscriptions and how they could air that to a wide audience because it's only one location paying to have it for like $10 a month, and everybody else will just go there to see it for free. I don't know how that would work as something like that with a subscription. But as far as UFC goes, I believe places like Buffalo Wild Wings do carry those really big pay-per-views. The ones that headline like Ronda Rousey or guys like Ewan McGregor, and they usually carry those shows and they have like a big draw and they bring in a lot of money. So, but yeah, I definitely think if they were to have more of that and such things, they'll probably be good.
Yeah. And then another topic just to talk on. So how do we get so people who are basically how do we make sure that people, if they come and they do play poker and they're new, how do we make sure they don't get exploited and abused by the people who have been playing for years?
So so that's one of the things, right? That these new people will, aren't so skilled would be afraid of is being drawn out, being taken advantage of, losing all their money. And I think, like you said, if we had a beginners type of a deal first where they could kind of get familiar, kind of get the jitters out of the way, get used to playing and how it all works, and they get a feel for everything. They'd be more inclined to come back and then go away from the beginners table and maybe join into the more advanced tables, and you know they wouldn't be afraid as much as losing their money, and they would think they can actually have a chance, right?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. By the way, for those who are on, so we time this to start after Monday Night Raw for wrestling, after uh, The Bachelor, and after the Iowa caucus results. Now, unfortunately, somehow the Iowa caucus results have been delayed, and we still don't know who won that caucus. Hopefully, before this podcast ends, we will know because after Iowa, it's on to New Hampshire. Now, any last words that you've got on how do we grow poker? How do we get people who aren't so skilled to start playing?
So, let me ask you something. How did someone as yourself get into poker at an age that you're at now? I know you've been playing for a little while, but I believe you weren't really into this maybe 5 years ago or such
Yeah, so
tournament.
so so what happened is so I went to Atlantic City in 2010. And I went down to Atlantic City. I played poker in it was like the WSOP room at Caesars Atlantic City or the Wild Wild West or something like that. It was there. So I was with a couple of friends and we went down and I fired at 1-2 no limit hold'em. And I basically managed to punt off $100 in like 3 hands. So it did not go well. So then I basically decided like to go play blackjack and win my money back and actually made some money and then didn't play poker again for a while. So then the reason that I punted my money, I had no clue what I was doing, right? I basically, didn't understand when should you be raising, when should you be calling. I didn't get that, hey, you should probably be folding a hand like 7-8 offsuit to a raise. So I had no idea of strategy. So I think that one thing people should do before they try to start playing, like read like a basic poker book. So it's going to cost you like $15 to go on Amazon and get a poker book, um, you will punt off $15 playing poker having no clue. So you basically are investing in like being a better player and winning more. So ultimately, what happened, I took a shot at poker again later on after doing a little bit of reading about it, and I was actually able to win some money, right? So I bought in for like I think it was $50, and I ended up leaving with like 180 that time. And I played again, bought in for like $50, left with like 120. So I was making some profit, and I continued to hone my game, build my skill level, um, and then fired at tournament poker. So that way, you could actually have the chance to make more money. Now, you're not going to make a life changing sum playing like a $40 or $50 tournament, but you can get to the point where you say satellite into that. So Chris Moneymaker, uh, one of the greatest poker players in recent years, he won the World Series of Poker main event. He actually satellited in. He bought into like an $86 satellite tournament, won the satellite, got a seat, and he then proceeded to go on and win, over $1 million. So that's kind of the story on how I went from nobody in poker to being one of the top 175 players in the state of New Hampshire. All right. So we're going to continue on to our um, next topic here, and that is to talk about New England's newest luxury casino resort property, Encore Boston Harbor. So Encore Boston Harbor has had a full 7 months of poker operation, right? They opened in June of 2019. They had the July to December period and all of January. And overall, poker there is actually going pretty well. They've got great cash games. They have daily tournaments that are exceeding the guarantees. And they always seem to have games like 1-3 and 2-5 no limit hold'em running, usually also 2-2 PLO, 5-10 no limit hold'em, and 4-8 limit also run. And on the weekends and evenings, we'll see some higher stakes run. We'll also sometimes see stud games run, but 10-20 NLH and 5-5 PLO tend to run on the weekends and some of the evenings. I think they've had it's either 2040 or 2550 ran once there, which is pretty good stakes for New England. And I think that the guarantees they're doing on the tournaments are actually too conservative, right? They're always being beat. They had a guarantee of 250,000 on an event, and they had 700,000 in the prize pool. It probably could have been 500K guarantee and drawn a little higher. But the dealers and the floor people there ultimately are doing a great job, and they're professional and courteous to the customer, so that's good. So then, what are the problems that Encore has when it comes to poker? Well, the first problem is the cashier lines. It takes way too long to get chips, to cash out, or register for tournaments. You have 6 or 7 cashier windows, and you see a line of people, and there's just 2 open. So what are all these other people doing there, right? Why don't
So
they
it's
have?
kind of like Walmart, right? Where like they only have one lane open and you need way more open.
Yeah, it's the exact scenario, right? You have 30 people waiting, and you have 2 cashiers working, and then sometimes you see these people standing there, and they're not doing anything. They're just standing there like watching somebody else counting out money. Like why not have them open a window? So I think the other thing that they have a problem with, by the way, if you look at their main gaming floor, they'll have 20 plus people in line, and the slot ticket machines don't give out coins, which is absolutely absurd. So they spent again over $1 billion to build a casino, and they couldn't get a ticket redemption machine that gives out coins. Every other casino in New England, when you put your slot ticket in, and if you, let's say you had $27.52, it's going to give you $27 in cash and 52 cents in coins. um, and Encore can't do it. You have to go to a window to get your coins. Just doesn't make any sense. So I think the possible solution here, staff more cashiers and then have the supervisors step in and help when there's short periods of increased traffic. So if you have a tournament that's about to start and people need to register for it, that 15 minutes before the tournament starts until maybe 15 minutes in, when you have a lot of people registering, have the supervisor step in and actually do transactions and get people registered for the tournaments and cashed out. It looks terrible to have them just standing there not doing anything. So that's one thing. Another problem that Encore's got, parking. So self-parking there is free, but they are often running out of space and then forcing people to pay to valet park or park across the street for $20. And this is infuriating to some of their customers, right? It's almost insulting to them because they advertise free parking, they have billboards with it. Then there isn't free parking. You get there and they're asking you to pay. It's almost, it's kind of insulting to some people. Even worse, sometimes the parking garage is open, but there's no space to be found. So you have to circle in the garage for more than 10 minutes, try to follow somebody who's leaving to get a spot. And people are complaining almost every day about the parking situation there. And they still haven't come up with a better mechanism for how to handle it. The one thing they did do, if you're like an elite member, I guess you get preferred parking now, but that's not going to help the majority of the customers. It's just not. So I think the possible solution there, one, let poker players get validated for free valet parking. That way they don't have to worry about the garage. They can go to valet, play
Now, is it?
poker.
Would you just do poker players? Or could this be open to anybody?
Well, what they do is if you have $1 of comps, you get the valet for that. And so if you're playing like slots or you're playing at the tables, you'll probably get $1 of comps during your time there, and then it'll just cost you that. But for poker, they don't give you comp dollars. They use a different point system, and so you can't use those to pay for parking. So then if you, let's say, played poker for 8 hours, you're going to get asked to pay like $45 at the valet.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, terrible, right? Um, so that's one issue. I think a long-term fix that they need is to actually create more parking or better incentivize people to use the offsite lots. So, for example, they have an offsite lot with a shuttle bus that costs $5. Maybe if people use that, they should say, "Hey, park here, and we're going to give you, a coupon to get $10 off of food or something." So that way, people are incentivized to park there because they're going to get that, $10 food coupon, and then the people that don't want to park offsite would actually have space in the garage. So something like that. Or if you have to park across the street where it's $20, give people $20 of comps to offset that. I think that's one idea. Another set of problems that Encore suffers from is beverage service. And this gets complained about basically every day. I don't think a day goes by on the internet where somebody's not posting about how the beverage service was bad. Ultimately, the entire casino is understaffed, causing people to not be able to order and get beverages in a timely manner. Some players go over an hour and they don't even see a server. And the poker room probably has it the worst because they have limited beverage service. Now, I'll give a story. The last time I was at Encore, I actually decided I was going to time what happened as far as beverage service. So I said, all right, I'm going to start a timer on my phone when I sit down, and I'm going to see how long does it take to get beverage service. It took 38 minutes to get a drink. Imagine if you sat down at the Outback Steakhouse at the bar and it took 38 minutes to get an order. It's not acceptable for a luxury resort property.
My man Gordon Ramsay would not approve.
Oh, Gordon would go nuts. Gordon would not be pleased.
And
Actually,
I would love to see Gordon go into Encore undercover and deal with such shenanigans.
yeah. So actually, Gordon is familiar with casino resort places because he has a couple of Las Vegas properties. He's got one at, I believe, he's like there's Gordon Ramsay Steak, and then there's the other Gordon. I think there's three in Las Vegas. One is at Caesars, one's at Paris. I can't. There's another one I think, but he also has an Atlantic City pub as well. But the poker room is suffering the most, right? And here's why. So the poker room has limited beverage service. Bottled beer, none. Only two drafts, Heineken and Bud Light. So this is the Boston Harbor Casino.
So
There's
where's the
no
Sam
harpoon.
Adams at?
Right. There's no Sam Adams. There's no
What?
harpoon. There's no like night shift brewing in Everett. They don't have any of that, right? There's zero hard cider in the poker room, which is absolutely ridiculous because people want their Angry Orchard or down east. They can't get it.
What is
Liquor
this
like,
zero hard cider? What is that?
yeah, no hard cider, right? It's crazy. Liquor like Grey Goose is unavailable. They don't have any Fiji water. There's no cappuccino. There's no milkshakes. It's crazy.
So do they have any kind of caffeine you can have?
You can get like Red Bull and coffee.
Oh, that's not really good.
That's on the caffeine side, right? They got Red Bull and coffee. Um, and they don't have like cappuccino. I don't think they have espresso. They used to, and then they pulled that out of the poker room. So I think some possible solutions here. One, they need to hire more cocktail servers, right? It's ridiculous to expect one person to cover 250 people and deliver reasonable service. The servers aren't to blame here. The servers are working really hard and trying to get the beverages out. But when you ask one person to take 250 people's orders, it's just not going to work well.
Yeah, the numbers don't work.
Yeah. The other thing would be to add self-service for soft drinks, right? Juices, coffee, tea. those things in Massachusetts, you can't let people serve alcohol themselves, but juices and tea and stuff you can. So MGM Springfield actually did this. They had a lot of success with the Coca-Cola freestyle machines available on the gaming floor and in the poker room. If all you want is a Diet Coke or you Coke Zero, you want cherry Sprite or something like that, you can actually get that drink yourself and you don't have to wait on anyone. And then the servers only have to focus on the other drinks. So that scenario works well. And
Well,
Encore
let
should
me ask
really
you
consider
this.
that.
Let me ask you just a quick question here, though, because do you think the amount of alcohol available is done on purpose to deter people from drinking, or do you think it's just that they don't have it available? What do you think that what's going on with that?
So I think that they're trying to deal with the fact that they were not making the amount of profit they thought they would. So they're thinking, oh, well, what if we try to save some money by not offering certain beverages? The problem is that that cheapens the experience for the customer. And this isn't a place that was meant to cater to the low end. It's supposed to be a luxury casino resort property.
Right.
So by doing that, they're essentially causing their clients who have or customers who have more sophisticated taste to get turned off because they feel like it's a cheapened experience. And if you go to, um, let's say, the Borgata, the Venetian, or even Wynn in Las Vegas, because Encore Boston Harbor is owned by the same people that own Wynn and Encore in Vegas, they don't have these problems, right? You go to Wynn Las Vegas, you're able to get, premium liquor like Grey Goose. If you're playing in high limit there, you can get like ridiculously premium stuff. Um, but stuff like Grey Goose is available to everybody, even if you're playing penny slots there. Fiji waters are available to everyone. They have cappuccino. They have multiple types of beer. Um, I think actually they had Sam Adams in Vegas. I think, which
And in Vegas, there's not a time limit for ordering drinks, right?
so yeah, in Las Vegas they have 24/7 alcohol service. Massachusetts, I think you can only serve from 8 a.m. to 4 a.m. in the casinos, and outside the casino, it's actually only till 2 a.m.
I
Um,
believe Everett Casino is 2 a.m., but you are right. I think 4
no,
a.m. for
it's
Encore.
actually Encore is 4 a.m., which is in Everett, but the rest of Everett, if you're outside the casino, is only 2.
Right, but and don't the patrons have to be actively gaming to get drinks after 2 a.m.?
That is correct. So if you're playing poker or slots, that's gaming, so that would count. Um, so because poker is regulated by the gaming commission, even though it's not truly gambling, it's more of a game of skill, but it's still regulated by the same people. Another thing to help right in Encore, they should restore availability of cappuccino, premium liquors, Fiji waters, and bottled beer for the customers who ask. If somebody just says they want a vodka and soda, then yeah, give them whatever cheap vodka you want. But if somebody's going to specifically call out that they want Tito's or Kettle One or Grey Goose, they really should be able to get that. They have that level of service at their Las Vegas location. They need to get that up to par in Boston.
Oh,
The other thing,
absolutely.
and we actually got asked on the podcast here to talk about this topic by Tiny, who want to know, hey, what's your thoughts on the rake increase at Encore Boston? Well, we're getting into that. So the rake, which is what the house takes out of every pot, was hiked up to a maximum of $6 per hand with no other services or amenities being provided. It's not like they said, hey, we're increasing the rake by $1, but you guys are going to get, improved food or something like that, or some other benefit. They did nothing. But I actually think what they should be doing here is increasing the rake even more. And that doesn't sound like it would make any sense, but raise the rake another dollar because most of the customers don't notice it or they don't even care about it, right? The few that care about it are the people that are grinding out all the time and they're still going to continue to play if the action is there. Even if their hourly earnings get reduced by a couple dollars, they're not going to stop playing. They're going to keep playing. So instead of, worrying about the rake, bump it up, take more money. So overall, when we think about what's going on at Encore, this is not what people expect out of a luxury casino resort property. It's a 5-star building with 2-star service. And the executives at Wynn Resorts were absolutely right when they said that Boston Harbor is not yet up to the Wynn standard. And they openly said this to their shareholders when they held um, the quarterly review meeting with them to talk about their earnings. They openly said, hey, Boston Harbor's not yet up to standard. And the most sophisticated customers who are most likely to spend the most money, they don't feel treated well. They think their experience cheapened, and they're likely to be driven away to competitors. So I think, if the people at Encore, if any of them watch this podcast, they should try to um, they should try to make some changes, get some improvement going. Now, let's see if we have any questions that came in before we head into our next item here. See if we have any questions that came in from our viewers, listeners, and others. So,
Matt,
Poker God. Yeah.
Matt, before you get into that first question, I just want to ask what your thoughts are on the Encore looking to possibly replace their workers with automatic drink makers.
Okay. So I think that topic, it's a little bit controversial. I think that uh, the local poker troll. So I think that replacing the workers with automatic drink workers, it's supposed to add efficiency and lead to better customer service, and that's good. However, what they probably need to do is instead of the workers that they replace, what they should be doing is having them move in, instead of being bartenders, have them be servers. So because they have a shortage of servers, the servers can't get the drinks out to people fast enough. So if you're going to get rid of bartenders, do that and have them move into a different job role. Now, that will allow for better service to the customers ultimately. However, and it's actually bad too from the job situation, right? Because they're cutting jobs. You never want to see that. You want to see people getting more employment. Now, hopefully, these people who lose their jobs because the economy is fairly good will be able to get um, new jobs elsewhere. See the let's see here. So the other question we had here, and this guy Poker God 92, he wants to know who will you be voting for in the Democratic primary? Now, Poker God 92's question. This is interesting. I think that if you're a poker player, you got to get behind Andrew Yang. That's because Andrew Yang wants to see poker legalized nationally. He wants that done. He doesn't want it to have to be the state by state process. So I think that's the guy that for a poker player, if you're a single issue voter, that's the guy to go with. Andy, you got any thoughts on that?
On the 2020, on the 2020 Democratic primary.
Yeah. So
So
Iowa's tonight, and New Hampshire is next Tuesday.
right. So I believe, I like that Andrew Yang wants to actually legalize online poker. His support for legalization of online poker at the federal level is great.
Yeah, that's definitely good. All right. Um, so continuing on here to our next topic. Um, so we're getting accused here. This guy is accusing us of typing fake questions and reading them out loud. And this is absolutely ridiculous. We're taking questions that came in from people. Yeah, some of the questions might not be the type of questions you would ask, but if you have real questions, you can ask them yourself. But we're not going to deny people questions because, yeah, somebody might ask an obvious one like, hey, if I get aces, should I consider raising? Yeah, you should. That's pretty obvious, but not everybody knows that. Not everybody is some sort of great poker leader. Um, so to continue on here to our next topic, right? So we've done a comparison here at Poker Uncensored, looking at Encore Boston Harbor against MGM Springfield, against Mohegan Sun, against the Borgata, and we basically gave everything a 1-star to 5-star ranking and looked at a number of criteria. Right? When we look at table quality, Encore's the winner. They've got the best tables in the region. MGM comes in second. When you look at seating, Encore and MGM are great. Mohegan and the Borgata got to step it up. Dealer quality, really good at Encore, MGM, and the Borgata. Mohegan's pretty good too, but not as good. We look at beverage service. Now Encore ranks really low here, right? Only 1-star because the beverage service is so bad in the poker room. MGM gets 5 stars because of the self-service aspect that they have on top of solid beverage service. And you've got 4 stars at Mohegan and the Borgata. Parking, again, Encore is getting 2 stars because of the parking issues. Technically, they say it's free, but that's not always the case. MGM and Mohegan, 5 stars, free parking, ample garage space. The Borgata, 4 stars because while they have ample space, they charge you. cash game availability. Encore and the Borgata are kings here, right? They do very well. They always have solid cash games. Rake per hand. Now, this is where Encore just gets killed. Look at that. $6 per hand. MGM's got 5 and Mohican's 4. The Borgata's $4. The Borgata time rakes their game when it comes down to looking at 2-5. Encore, not a leader there, right? They're charging the most rake. When we look at daily tournaments, this is one area Encore does excel in. Every tournament they have is guaranteed prize pool, and they're running 1 or 2 a day. MGM Springfield, not so great. No guarantees on their daily tournaments. And then for major tournaments, the Borgata, the clear leader, right? The Borgata does 5 poker opens every year. They run, big Saturday events with 100K guaranteed. I think that's a great area that Encore has some opportunity to move into. I think that, Mohegan ought to step it up on tournaments. So when it comes down to the overall kind of ranking and comparison, though, and we look at it, the Borgata comes in the highest. Encore comes in not the worst, but the expectation was so high. They really should be ranking higher. They really should be closer. And, we have, so this guy Slicer, 1028, he's coming in and claiming that Mohegan has a maximum rake at $5. Now, he might be right. And if that's the case, then we just need to adjust. We would actually adjust the Mohegan ranking to 3 stars, and then their number would drop slightly. But ultimately, even if they're raking $5, they're not as bad as Encore trying to pull off 6. Now, we're going to get into the remaining questions that we have from the audience here, and we're going to see what people are asking. So let's see here. Let's see. We addressed the rake increase. We had a question here on the coronavirus and will it cause the World Series of Poker to be postponed? I would say no. I think that, the WSOP we're still a good 4 months away from. Again, there's no reason to not travel to Nevada. And I think that the World Series will go on as planned. And I think it's going to be a solid event. Continuing on to see here if we have any questions. So let's see. We got the local poker trolls coming in with stupid stuff that we don't even need to worry about. And then let's see. Oh, look, we have a question from Poker God 92, and Poker God wants to know if we have. Oh, let's see. So I think I'd have an idea who Poker God 92 is, but Poker God 92 wants to know: have you ever folded KK pre? Andy, have you ever done that? Have you ever folded Pocket Kings pre-flop?
No.
And you know what? I have. So, and the level of skill that it took to do that was wild. So I had to read that this guy. So basically, I raise. Guy re-raises. This guy ships it all in. Now I have King, second best starting hand at No Limit Texas Hold'em. I'm able to get a read that this guy who ships all in, because he's such a tight player, he's doing that with 1 of 2 hands. It's going to be pocket aces or pocket kings. Pocket kings is less likely because I have 2 of the kings myself. So now that's leading me to think, oh, he's got pocket aces. Now, if he has pocket kings, then I'm basically saying, I'm going to have to call off here all of my money to try to chop and split the pot with him. If he has pocket aces, I am way behind, right? If he has pocket aces, he's ahead like 83% to 17%. I've got to suck out on him by getting a lucky king. So, looking at that scenario, I go, you know what? I'm going to fold here. I'm going to lay down pocket kings, and I'm going to let him go. So I fold pocket kings pre-flop. The other guy who was in the pot, right? So he had raised. He decides that he's going to get all of his chips in, and he was not in good shape because when cards got tabled, he had ace queen. The other guy had ace ace. And when you have ace queen against ace ace, you're basically drawing to hoping that you could somehow get really lucky and get two queens to have three of a kind and crack the aces. You're way behind, and the guy who had the aces, he won the hand, got all the money, and I saved myself plenty of money and could continue on. So let's see if we have any additional questions here.
Do you think Encore would benefit if they had shows such as the other casinos?
I do. I think that Mohegan Sun, for example, last week they had like Nelly, the rapper, and that's going to draw people in because people now, granted, Nelly is beyond his prime years, yeah, but for having I think it was actually like a free concert that they gave. Like if you're a Players Club member, you could get 2 tickets to. Now that's going to draw people in, and then they're going to decide, oh well, you know what? Let me go get dinner, and let me go fire like $50 at roulette, or like some people might bring $1,000 to roulette. So that's going to generate more revenue for the casino. I think Encore made a big mistake not building out a true venue to be able to do stuff like concerts or like relatively large concerts.
But if Encore would have done that, they might have also rushed that as well, and then the execution might have not gone very well. As currently, some issues with Encore are they tried to fast track this entire project, and they're now kind of paying for it, right?
Yeah, that kind of is true. I think there are some things that they could have done better, but at the same time, with not having a major entertainment venue, they're limited to using their ballroom to do stuff, and they can do say they can have like a comedian come in, but they can't do something like you couldn't have like Rage Against the Machine come and do a show at Encore. There's just really not a good space for that. And
No.
by the way, Rage Against the Machine coming to the Boston area for Boston Calling. So let's see if we have any additional um, questions that have
Matt,
come in from people.
you're a betting guy. Did you make any bets on the Super Bowl game at all?
So on the Super Bowl, I think I put $5 on the over in points that did not win. However, I was a Kansas City person. I said Kansas City's going to win this thing.
That's
Kansas City came back and won, so that was correct. And next year I think we're going to see if they re-sign Tom Brady, we're going to see the Patriots against the Dallas Cowboys in the Super Bowl.
You say that every year.
All right. Well, I do say that. I did say that this year. I was like, it's going to be Patriots, Cowboys, and neither team made it. In fact, the Cowboys didn't even make the playoffs. They fired Jason Garrett. They have a new coach, and the Patriots managed to somehow lose. So that brings us towards the conclusion of tonight's episode of Poker Uncensored. Now, as we look to the audience and see if there's any final questions here, want to thank everybody for listening to the show. You can follow us on Facebook, where we will announce the time of the next episode. And let's just do a quick check to see if we have any final questions here from anyone. And Andy, do you have any final words before we sign off for this great episode of the show?
No. Overall, everything was hit on pretty well. But I do like that the Brook is opening itself up to more than just your poker players and your card game fanatics. It's I think a place that'll do really well. And yeah, you might see me over there hanging out, having a drink, having a meal, having a good time. Maybe I'll get into some cards. It's I think more places need to implement something though for your beginners, for your people who don't, they're first timers or just not very familiar. Yeah, poker is something you could try to learn on your own and you could research, but it's really getting out there and doing it for yourself and being at the table and making it more real, right? So I think that if more places were to have a welcoming like that and the pressure was off, that you'd see a lot more people come out. And I mean, you're 18 or to 35-year-olds with they got money, they're looking for stuff to do, and I think it would really benefit them to get into a hobby such as this, right?
Oh, that's definitely good. You get people into poker, and they can. Some people turn it into a career, right? There's people that they play poker to make a living. There's other people that they started, like Chris Moneymaker was like an accountant, right? The guy went and worked his typical like 9 to 5 accounting job, and then he became a pro poker player because he won big. Now, Rob wants to know why the hell do you love Borgata so much? Do they pay you? so so no, I'm not on the payroll of the Borgata, but here's the thing. So the reason that I like the Borgata is that it is a leader in the Atlantic City and East Coast market when it comes to operating a casino resort. They have a level of service and amenities that are excellent. So you go to the Borgata, for example, and if you're staying there, it's a true high quality hotel property.
They're owned by
So
MGM Resorts, right?
yeah, so the story of the Borgata is interesting because originally the plan was to build a different like casino in that section of the place. And then what ended up happening is the Borgata was built with a company called Boyd Gaming owning the place and having some sort of partnership at one point with MGM. Now, what happened was Boyd eventually wanted to sell out completely, and MGM took it over fully a few years ago. And so they're slowly merging the Borgata into the rest of their program. Like they've adopted the M Life Players Club program, but there's still some stuff that's unique to the Borgata. Um, but one of the reasons it's so great, so when you go to the Borgata, you've got a true uh, good quality hotel, a great level of service, excellent staff, but they actually have amenities that you would want in a resort, right? So they have a swimming pool. They have a very nice indoor one. Actually, I think they have two indoor ones because there's like a main pool and then there's the water club pool, and then they have an outdoor pool for the summertime. Um, they have a full spa that's available so people can go and get massages, they can get facials, they can get manicures, whatever. They have
You
a
know that
huge
their spa has a salon and a barber shop and a fitness center.
Yeah, that's true. So actually, it's really good because if I'm down at the Borgata for a poker tournament and I want to go exercise before that tournament, I can go down to the gym and I can lift some weight and I can do some running and stuff like that ahead of time. Because poker, unfortunately, you don't get a lot of activity to like move around. Um, so there's that. But they also have a great selection of dining. Right, so you've got Angeline for great Italian food. You have Bobby Flay steak, you have Wolfgang Puck, you have the Metropolitan, which is a more casual dining outlet. You've got several bars. There's Izakaya, which is a Japanese Asian fusion restaurant. Um, they have a buffet, which is possibly the best buffet in all of Atlantic City. Um, and then they have a very nice setup. They have a full set of casino gaming, right? They've got plenty of slots. They have all the games like craps and blackjack and stuff like that. And they're the best poker room in Atlantic City. Have you seen the movie Rounders with Matt Damon?
I have not.
No. So in the movie Rounders, they talk about going down to the Trump because that was like the place that everybody wanted to play poker. Because this is set back in like the mid '90s or whatever. So they talk about going to the Trump to play poker in Atlantic City. And the Trump was the king of poker in Atlantic City until the Borgata took over that role because the Borgata was able to provide people with a better room and a better player experience. And so players that were playing at the Trump moved over. And then, of course, the Trump Taj Mahal went bankrupt. And then people ended up there. So the Borgata runs some of the biggest tournaments on the East Coast. They run, standard daily tournaments that are at smaller stakes. They run um, everything from 1-2 no limit all the way up to like there was a there was a 40-80 game I think that was running when I was down there. I'm obviously not playing at that stakes. I'm not bankrolled for that, but they have tons of options and the level of service is great. Some of the problems you see at Encore, like beverage service, they don't have that problem at the Borgata, right? You go to the Borgata and you want Miller Lite, you can get Miller Lite. You want Sam Adams, you can get that. You want a decent quality vodka, you can get that. So
Not only that, but
continuing,
the Borgata has a wide range of entertainment. So not only does the Borgata have an event center for like music, they have a festival park, which is an outdoor venue they use during the summer months. They have the music box, which
and
is
they have
another.
the beer bar. They have that outdoor beer
Yeah,
bar as well. But the event center actually doesn't really get used for concerts because the event center is more used for business conventions there. But they use it for poker as well. The Winter Open took place in the event center, used one of the ballrooms. So,
The
by
music
the way,
box.
the let's see, the Iowa caucus, we still don't know who won. So, the apparently the phone call with the Iowa Democratic Party was abruptly ended when campaigns pressed for a time at which results would be ready. That was as of 12:04 a.m. per CNN's John King. So it may be a late night for those of you who are waiting for the Iowa caucus results. Now, that said, thank you everyone for listening to Poker Uncensored. It's been a great episode. And we will be back because even though the haters and losers want to stop us, they're not going to do it. It's not going to happen. And everyone have a good night.
Adios.